Hey folks, welcome to the 10 Laws podcast with East Forest. I am said East Forest. I'm coming to you today in this end of the year podcast edition that I'm calling Ask Me Anything, where you guys have posted some questions on social media and I'm going to answer some of them. It's sort of a end of the year conversation that we can have together. So bear with me as I'm sitting here at the console of the MacBook Pro, looking at a few of these questions. I've got my mushroom coffee here to my right. Delicious, with a little oat milk and almond milk. And I was kind of wanting this to be a bit of a, it's like a dialogue, but it's a delayed dialogue. You ask a question, I'm responding, and then maybe you'll respond back. But it's a different kind of podcast today, and there'll be some music as well. So I say we just get right into it. Let's see. Sharon Pipicelli. I think I'm getting that right. Pipicelli. Who's your musical inspiration and go-to in times of trouble? ? That is a triple question, Sharon Pipicelli. Music that I go to in times of trouble. I think you're saying sort of like when you feel down in times of distress. That's an interesting. I think I have sort of a two-part answer for that. One is I tend to use music, like playing music, the act of creativity, like playing anything, as one of my forms of helping to get out of a funk. Or I should say one of my forms of trying to avoid being in a funk. Certainly sometimes I'll listen to music. I kind of use like music itself as far as listening to it to cultivate different, types of feeling. And Spotify is so great these days because, you can hear essentially anything you want. And I use that to listen to a lot of different modern music. I mean, I listen to anything from contemporary classical stuff, like Nils Fromm is a big favorite of mine, and I'm sure you probably hear some of his influence in my music. And that whole world there goes into like I could even pull up Spotify here, and I could just dig into some of the people I've been listening to. I hope this doesn't screw up the recording. But then I like to listen to all sorts of modern music too. I'd say mostly to modern music. If I want to get things going, I'll listen to some Anderson .Paak and get into that world. I'll listen to, just the other day at Christmas time, I was listening to some of the Rap Caviar, which I never do, but I just wanted to like dive into that world for a while. And let me click on the artist tab here in my Spotify and some people that I have been into. Now, some of these I might not listen to all the time, but I'm into their work. You guys know the Album Leaf, I'm sure. Alex Kozobolis. I think he's Italian. He's got some really interesting instrumental work. So I listen to instrumental stuff. What else? Some modern things in here. Animal Collective just for like inventiveness. Aphex Twin, especially like the old stuff. Ásgeir. Do you know Ásgeir? He's Icelandic. Balmorhea. So Balmorhea is someone I saw a long time ago, and they're contemporaries in the field with me, and they do instrumental music that's, I think it's emotional. I'm a huge fan of their work, especially their first album is a big fan, but I kind of track everything they're doing. I love listening to it. Here's a lesser known artist from Europe named Bea 1991. I saw her at Sonar in Iceland. There's a festival out there in the winter, and I dig her stuff, man. We're only in the B's here. I'm not going to go through all of it. I mean, Bjork's a big fan. Bill Evans, he's probably my biggest piano guy, super famous jazz pianist. If I had to name two others, my next biggest would be Keith Jarrett. My favorite album of Keith Jarrett is the Köln Concert, like Cologne, like Koln. And I also like how Bruce Hornsby plays the piano. Can't say I listened to Bruce a bunch, but I did see him live last year. Boards of Canada is in here. Bob Moses, Bobby McFerrin, Circle Songs, very inspirational stuff. Bonobo, Brad Meldau, great modern jazz pianist. Still only in the B's. I'll go a little bit further down. We've got some Indian stuff in here, some African stuff in here. Omu Sangare, one of the biggest stars of Africa. Caribou, so getting back into the electronic world. I'll come back to this. Rolling the Seas, classics. Wow. Anyway, so, but what I'm trying to say is, like, as far as musical inspiration in times of trouble, to answer that most succinctly, is that creativity itself, I think, is a great way to kind of dive into music. So I would encourage you to make music if you're feeling like you are in that time of trouble. Even if you think in your head, oh, I'm not a musician, or if someone has told you that horrible phrase that you are not a musician, it is your birthright to make music. Everyone has the ability to make music. Everyone carries an instrument around with them at all times, and that is called your voice. So if you're alone, just sing something. Everyone knows everyone knows Happy Birthday. They know other songs, and it regulates the breath. It's the way to go. So when you're feeling down, sing a song. And we're back with The Rachel Philosophy. Yes, this is from Instagram. The Rachel Philosophy, who, big surprise, has a philosophical question. Do you believe in destiny? That we are leading ourselves to ours, whether we know it or not? Or do you think our outcomes are changeable and purely based on our perception and reactions to the world around us? I have often espoused this phrase to myself and to others, and it's that I hold this sort of contradictory truth that we have destiny and free will. And that in itself is kind of like a Buddhist koan or something. You know, it makes the gears of our mind stop in itself to say, well, how can we have destiny if we're choosing where we go? And somehow that's the main belief or truth that I seem to hold more as a feeling inside myself, that we have both. So to answer your question, the Rachel Philosophy, I do believe we're in destiny, but I also think that our choices that we make really, really matter, because I think there would be no other reason for us to be here, to be incarnate, if we weren't making those choices. So absolutely, your choices matter. Your destiny is the path that is unfolding in front of us, and somehow how that all computes together is beyond the octave of our consciousness that we are in. It's sort of like if I tried to explain to my dog, I don't know, the concept of free will, they would just look at me and you know, it's like a different octave of consciousness. And then another octave down from that would be, say, a tree or plant life, and down from that might be a rock. And even so, it would assume naturally that there would be octaves of consciousness above ours. And I feel that there are, and I've witnessed this a little bit in psychedelic states, but I also hope that there are, because, you know, the last thing that I want, and I think that anybody wants, is to be alive infinitely in exactly the consciousness that we're in, because the consciousness that we are in is inherently challenging, and there's suffering, and we have desires and wants, and we don't get things, and we do get things, and we lose things and we gain things, and our moods go up and then they go down. And That's sort of the game. That's the grist for the mill of being here, doing this thing. Incarnate in a two-dimensional, dualistic, did I say two-dimensional? Three-dimensional, dualistic existence that is being alive. And I know in my heart, or I like to feel in my heart and hold the truth in my heart that whatever comes beyond this is... I don't want to have to brush my teeth every night, and I don't want to have to care about all the mundane things that we care about. I want my consciousness to be beyond time. I want my consciousness to be beyond time, to be beyond the mundane desires that we feel here. So I feel that that's sort of part of our destiny, is that it's unfolding in front of us. And perhaps if you think about that, all of this is truncated into one singular moment of nowness, like the past and the future and the present. You know, if you want to get really philosophical, the Rachel philosophy, then it doesn't even matter. It's all happening at once. So boom, there you go. Okay. Wow. These are the most interesting Instagram names. Bajornu. It sounds like Bjork has a cousin. Bajornu. How did you roll into live music lessons? I don't know what that means. I'm assuming that means, how did you start playing music in yoga? Live music. Oh, music lesson. Okay, yoga lessons. I get it. Okay. A yoga class is a yoga lesson. Live music in it. How did you roll into that? Well, I rolled into it. How did it happen? Okay, I know how it happened. It was in 2011, and a friend of mine, couple friends, Michael Robinson, Sarah, his wife, Sarah Procopio, Louis Kofsky, the trio, the three amigos. We were in New York City when I used to live there, and I can't remember exactly which one of them had the idea, but they all put it on. They had the idea, they're like, hey, you should play music for Elena Brower, the yoga teacher in New York, and it'd be really cool because this music you've started making, I think would be a good match. And I said, sure, why not? If that can happen, let's do it. So they put it together. It was on 11/11/11. So it was on November 11th, 2011. And Sarah is a dancer in the Shenway Dance Company, and they were using the New York Armory as one of their rehearsal spaces. And so she had sort of a contact. And she got us to be able to use, they have a room upstairs. I don't remember what it's called, but we were able to use that, I believe, for free or for not too much money. And we told Elena that we wanted to do this event at the New York Armory, and she immediately said yes. We didn't know each other. And I think she thought it was going to be in the main space at the Armory, which holds 10,000 people. And now that Elena and I are super tight, I feel like it's okay for me to talk about this. But I know her, and she loves a big event. And so she probably thought, oh, this is a huge event. I am in. And then we're like, well, it's going to be upstairs. Do you still want to do it? And bless her heart, she said, absolutely. And I don't think she took any fee. And we did the event, and it was the first time I'd ever played for any yoga or anybody. I remember I also didn't know anything about yoga. I didn't have a yoga practice at the time. So it was a big learning curve, but it was cool. And then from that, I sort of saw that maybe as a little bit of a way just to play and to get out there in the world. And I think it was that same summer, somehow, maybe through Louis. Louis was he became my first manager, one of my best friends. And I got asked, or I can't remember how it happened. I think I was playing somewhere at Louis's place, and someone there worked for Wanderlust, and they had the idea that I could come play for Wanderlust festivals in the summer. And they booked me to play 4 of them throughout the whole summer. So that took up almost my whole summer. So that was like a deep dive into the yoga world, because all of a sudden I was playing for all these different kinds of teachers, a lot of names you've all heard of. And it's sort of like, learn how to swim by just jumping in. So I started to pick things up. I remember playing classes in Montreal, outside Montreal, where they're in French. I didn't even know what they were saying, but I was like, well, it doesn't seem to matter because I don't really know these poses anyway. And I just started to learn and started to develop a way that I thought worked and a way that I like to move through the process. And I think one of the advantages of having that backdoor approach was that I wasn't making music for yoga, so to speak. It was coming from somewhere else, and it had a kind of original purity or something to it, because it wasn't pandering to that world, because I didn't even know how to pander to that world. So time went on, and I think that first summer at Wanderlust, which was really, really hard for me, I learned a lot of hard lessons, but I also helped kickstart things and get my name out there, and that was that. And here we are in 2018, and I'm going to go to yoga class at 4 o'clock. Ocean Mala 1, sorry. You're not, Ocean Mala 1. Ocean Mala 1. It's a capital O in the 1. Oh, no, it isn't. Oh, my God. There's just not a space here. It's Ocean Mala. One of the things, sorry about that, Ocean Mala. One of the things I most appreciate about you and your music is the deep connection to nature and wilderness. I'd like to know, what are your favorite natural wild places in the U.S. and why? Smiley face with eyes, frown, hands in prayer. Yes, well, I mean, I gotta say my favorite place is where I have my current home, or a little plot of land, which is in the Grand Staircase National Monument in Boulder, Utah, in southern Utah. The four corners of our country, the Colorado Plateau. The reason why I like it so much is a couple reasons. One of them is it's just hard to get to, so there aren't as many people there. It hasn't been as messed up and sullied as other places in the country. And because of that, we haven't really screwed it up like other places. And it's what I like to call a raw land diet. So it's sort of like having raw food, but this is raw land. So you walk around, and even the land I live on, there's remnants of the Anasazi and other cultures that have been there before. Regularly, if you're out hiking or walking, I've stumbled upon petroglyphs, pictographs. Some of them, 5,000 and more years old, they're still there. You can really sense the history of other cultures that were there that we haven't paved over in a way, and you can sense that energy. And what the culmination of all that energy does is it's humbling. It really puts me in a place where I'm not just the top of the food chain in my mind, but I have to pay attention. I have to pay attention to the weather out there. I have to pay attention to the other animals that are out there, because, on the obvious level, there's things like cougars and snakes and scorpions and spiders and things that you just got to be mindful of. But just like watching your step on the rocks and all the other wonderful wildlife, it's a gift, because it's showing myself in this web of life on this planet. And then the landscapes are so big and open there that, and you see the canyons, and you just see so far. It's like really big sky country that is just very, very inspiring. And at night, when I have a sauna there that I built, it's the only thing and the first thing that I built there. It's a really nice little bathhouse. It's got a cold dunk outside, a sound system inside, of course, a little shower, wood-fired sauna. And one of my favorite things is to do these cycles in the sauna where you get really hot, and I come out, I do the cold dunk, which is like totally brain freezes you, and everything goes crystal clear. And I stare up at the sky, because we're at 6,500 feet where I am. And so it's one of the darkest places in the country. And because of the elevation too, the stars are just incredible. The band of the Milky Way, you can see the core of the Milky Way, and just horizon to horizon, these stars. And I always seem to have one or two that just speaks to me in that moment. I feel like I'm getting these transmissions. Just I'll lie down on the bench out there after the cold blast. My body's still nice and warm, and the cold air around me, and just stare up there. And those are my favorite moments. Those little micro moments of bliss, where you get to feel that sense of eternity. And that's what I like so much about wilderness. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, so that place is very close to my heart as well. There are more people. I mean, nothing like California, but there are some spots in Oregon and Washington in that area that mean a lot to me too. Particularly, I think Central Oregon is one of my favorite spots around Bend. I mean, it's so beautiful. And if you move kind of central and south from there, it's a lot less populated, but there's a lot of good stuff out there in the world. And I really think that going out and finding those spots that are still wild, that basically we're not really managing them other than letting them be, is an important thing to experience, because it reminds you of that wilderness in your own heart, the wilderness that is you too, that is. It's not just like this ancillary part of you. It's like the core of who you are. And that's why I think, nature has been the fundamental beingness of our existence for all of our existence until probably the Industrial Revolution. Things started to shift. And then in the last 10 years, with the advent of the iPhone, it's had another shift, myself included. And I don't think we fully understand what that is doing to us. And then things on that phone and in that world, like social media, is screwing with our sense of separateness even more. So that's what I'd say, Ocean Mala. Not Ocean Mala 1, but Ocean Mala. Those are some places I like. Sounds like you already have a deep connection to them too. And tell me your favorite ones. Okie dokie. Wow. See, I can't tell if these names are just truncated or if this is just how you people roll on Instagram. Tit. I think it says Titten and Sarah. It's not Tishan and Sarah. It looks like Tit, Anand, Sarah. Tit and Sarah. That's how you roll. All right, Tit and Sarah. I'm going to think that's one entity of a Sarah Tit and Sarah. Tit and Sarah says, when you are at a crossroads, how do you know which path to take? Well, I don't. I don't always know which path to take. But I think what you're getting at, there's one thing I can say. I have noticed over time that there is an inner truth that you always know. And often looking back, I knew it at the beginning. I heard it at the beginning, but maybe I didn't believe it at the beginning. And I might have to go through a whole load of machinations and experiences to get away from that and come back to it. But it was usually the fundamental truth. So what I've worked more on over time is to trust that and to let that truth speak to me, even though it's sort of, it's a truth that doesn't always, is the one that doesn't fight in my heart and in my mind. It just is. It's a gentle, fundamental, like a candle flame that can't be extinguished. And it's the one that just, you know what is right. Ram Dass sometimes talks about the way he communicates and has a relationship with Maharaji, who is deceased, but he feels he's very much in his life. And I felt this too in a way. It's a bit of a different story, and which I won't go too deep down it, but just like my own relationship with Maharaji and how that kind of evolved through the process of making this record with Ram Dass. But Ram Dass says that for him, it's sort of like he presents a question in his mind that he might be struggling with, and he sort of just hears the answer in a sense. Like that, I'm intuiting that he means he knows the answer. And I think what he's talking about. It's like a feeling where you just kind of know. There's that instant, like, it's this. And yes, your mind can be like, well, but it's that, and there's this thing, and you have to consider this, and then you did this thing before, and what will you do in the future? But there's a way of strengthening our intuition. And that's actually what has been one of the core things that I've been aiming to do with my East Forest ceremony events, is trying to create a ceremony/concert, brain-based, spiritualized, ritualized event that actually helps you get in touch with that voice and to strengthen that voice. So we can plant unconscious seeds consciously, and we can get used to feeling what is that heart mind, what is that other part of myself, the larger me, and how can I listen to that voice, hear that voice, and trust that voice, trust that knowing. And I think a lot of that has to do with clearing away the noise in our lives. So again, going back to the phones and information sickness and these sorts of things, these bits of information coming into our nervous system, and our nervous system is filtering out just millions of things every moment, saying you don't need that. We're gonna funnel this down to what you need with our vision, with our hearing, with our tactile senses, with our mind, and that becomes what our consciousness is. But we weren't designed to take in this much all the time, and that is sort of why a symptom of that is the advent of things like the organic movement, the yoga movement, even my own music and my own career is riding the wave of that symptom of people being hungry for their own authenticity and for looking for wisdom. We all need teachers, and I think teachers and experiences and rites of passages were things that were a fundamental part of our past as human beings that we are bereft of these days. We don't really have these things anymore. And so we kind of cobble together our own systems of belief. And the advantage of that is it's empowering. Like you're kind of creating your own church. And I think that is a beautiful thing. But, the onus is on you. You got to grab the reins and say, what do I want to hold as my tenets? What are my 10 laws? What do I want to hold true? What are my own ethics? And these things are not immutable. These are things that, change over time, and they should change. You're a living being, and the environment around you is changing. So when you're at those crossroads, which is, again, part of the reason why we're here to face challenges and work through them. How do you know which path to take? You hopefully can strengthen that muscle of going inside and just knowing. Of course, good counsel is always an important thing. And sometimes that's a way of just reaffirming that which you already know. But sometimes also in our Western minds, especially mine, you just want to know, right? You just want to know. And sometimes you don't know. Adanity on Instagram says, what are your favorite routines when it comes to preparing to write music? Or what about performing music? Those are different things. So they are very different, I guess, routines. It's funny because for performing music, I definitely have routines. Whereas for writing music, I don't really have routines to prepare to write music. It's more like I have a routine in the way I like to write music. So to perform music, look, I came from a theater background. I used to be an actor, which was all about all sorts of warm-ups and stuff. And then I witnessed actors who didn't do a damn thing, or one guy, all he did is brush his teeth, and then that was enough for him to get on stage. I kind of play around with this and riff, but I've noticed more than anything, it's a mental game. So preparation is a big, big part of that for me. I just like to feel prepared. So I like to rehearse before an event. And the way I like to rehearse is a little bit, many days versus a lot in a few days. And that can mean it's really repetition. what the Russians, when I went to graduate school for part of my acting training in Russia, they call rehearsal repetitia, which is repetition, essentially. Repetition, right? You're just going through it. And through that repetition, you are familiarizing things in your brain and your body so that when you can get up on stage, you can start to let all that go. And that repetition allows you to be in the moment and be more free, right? And that is the ultimate goal, is it not? To be in some form of a flow state in the moment while you're up there with other people witnessing that event at the same time. It becomes a dialogue where you're open in the moment to what is happening, what the energy is around you. It's like a conversation. I've always said that about yoga classes. I always enjoy the ones where it feels like the teacher is listening to me, I'm listening to the teacher, and the students are listening to the music and the teacher, and I'm responding to that. But then, it's like this triangle, this trifecta of moving energy, trifecta of participation. And that is another thing I really like about the ceremony concerts that I'm doing, is that it's less of a performance for me and more of a moving energy around the room. And so it feels like there's a participation there. I mean, on one literal level, it's participatory because the audience might be singing or joining in with me, but also energetically. We're not, it's not like I'm on a stage and people are crossing their arms with their phones saying, hey, entertain me. I'm in the room with you and we're doing it together. So before a performance, besides rehearsal, I've started to the whole day I just kind of like to keep it chill. I like low drama. People often think that I'm kind of serious or coming off like, grouchy, particularly more grouchy on a performance day. But that's really just me like marshaling my energy. You're kind of like staying on simmer, but you don't want to boil. So it kind of changes like how I talk about things and what I do, obviously what I eat. I like to be very hydrated. And then right before, about a half hour before, I just like to do a little bit of yoga, do some stretching, do a little bit of vocal warm-ups. I do some sort of like meditation stuff, some brain-based stuff. Just kind of, get loose, move the body, stretch things out a bit, and just keep things easy breezy. Easy breezy. That's at least the mindset I like to feel. And as far as writing music, I can't say I have a routine or a way to prepare to do that, but it's again a mental game. So I like to not think about it too much. And it's a game of, again, repetition and just doing a lot of it. So I like to do a little bit again every day. So if I'm writing an album, let's say, for instance, the Held album or even the Ram Dass album. I didn't know I was writing the Ram Dass album, but it started the same way. I would sit down. I like to do my music rehearsal or recording ideally in the late morning, like 10 to 1. And I just record a few things. So both those records were very much based in improvisation. So yeah, I like to have everything set up, your piano tune and some different mic techniques. And I just sit down and I kind of say, hey, I'm going to record 1, 2, 3 songs. And basically you're making them up as you go along. So you're kind of developing a track. Each one might take half hour. And then I'm done. Close it, don't listen to it, move on. And do that again the next day and the next day and the next day. So after about a month, you've got maybe 30, 40 tracks. And then I might go back and listen to them and start to see which ones are now speaking to me. Because oftentimes I might play something in the moment and it doesn't seem particularly remarkable. Sometimes it might, but sometimes it's just nothing. It's just whatever, and you move on. I forget about it. And then I come back and there's a different ear and a different brain that's listening to it. Like I might not even remember quite what I was doing or how I did it, but it might have contained a certain essence or feeling. And that's sort of the thing I'm always looking for, is a certain feeling. And those are the ones that I'm like, wow, okay, that's a gem. And I start to cobble together, let's say you have 6 interesting core gems, like just on their own, they can stand on their own just on the basics, which is usually a really good sign. It's not like you want to have to add on a lot of other things to make the song work. If it can work simply, for instance, as a piano track or just a vocal track or something like that, it definitely can work if you start adding in other things. And from there, I just listen to the song and try to serve the song. Like, what does it want to be? And that's one of the reasons my songs on a record might be a little different on certain records because that's the way the song really wanted to go. And then you start to see where the holes are in the record itself. I still believe in like making records. And I like to think of a group of songs and how they relate to each other and how they make a connected journey. And then you might say, oh, I really could use something that's like more spacious to connect this dot to that other dot. And that might lead you to making a more ambient, spacious song, or vice versa. It might need an interlude or something with more energy. And, you do that. So it's quite a luxurious process, to be honest, one of just taking your time and doing a bit every day, like little bricks in a wall. And that's how you make the magic sauce. Maureen Light, 1111. Oh my, 1111. That was a number that speaks to me non-stop. We could get into a whole thing about synchronicity. I'm not saying it's like a dolphin flying out of a third eye, but it's just, I don't know, it's a playful way that something's going on and it plays with me all the time. Sometimes I feel like it's a way of the universe saying, it's sort of like, put a note in that. Like, yes. Yes. It's sort of like a pat on the back sometimes. Maureen Light 1111 says, what is your belief on marriage? Under what conditions or in what ways, beliefs, do you feel a relationship grows, serves, and flourishes best? What does attachment mean to you? Well, look, Maureen Light, I'm certainly no authority. I mean, look, for everyone on all this, I mean, look, don't believe anything I say. As my friend Court says, it's all metaphor, but I'll give you my 2 cents of where I'm at in this moment in time. I'm divorced recently, and I'm in a new relationship now with Marissa Rada Wepner. So, my beliefs on marriage are a bit colored, but I'm not someone who's down at all on partnership. I believe partnership is fundamental to being human and quite natural. That being said, marriage itself, I found that it wasn't, I haven't really thought this through, so I'm sorry if this feels not the most concise, but I wanted this just sort of be my thoughts that were very honest and live, so here they are. Marriage, look, it has a lot of baggage as an institution, and we expect so much from our partners these days that I feel like adding on that layer of marriage and the label and the cultural expectations of that is just one more level of complication that perhaps couples don't necessarily need anymore. You can do everything that you do in marriage, maybe not tax-wise, but without telling the state you're married and having a contract with the state. And perhaps that would just make being in partnership a tiny bit easier. It doesn't, I'm not saying you don't have to be any less committed. You certainly can be. I just think that that's like almost unnecessary these days. But I believe in the sort of like the act of marriage. I just don't necessarily think that the mechanism of marriage is that important anymore. That being said, there's certainly nothing wrong with it. If it's something you feel drawn to, it's a life experience, and I encourage us all to go for the ones that they feel is on the edge of their own growth. It certainly was for mine. It's all in the name of love. And you're asking here, Maureen Light, what conditions do you feel a relationship grows, serves, or flourishes best? Well, I think it grows best just that, when you're growing and when you're both growing. So when you're on the edge of your growth. And to do that, you have to really just be honest with your intuitive self about what does it mean for you to be the best that you are. And relationships are a mirror, so they're going to bring that out of you in a very big way. You can not be in a relationship, but these things are going to come up regardless at the point when you are in a relationship. So I think relationships are just sort of the ultimate crucible for personal growth. Just the other day, I was in the car with Radha. Her kids were in the back, and her daughter's 15. And I was trying to find an analogy about relationships. And I used to do home construction, remodeling. And in construction, we used to always say that construction was basically just about fixing problems. You're always like, you open up a floor, oh, there's some rot down there, I got to fix that. You fix that, and you figure out that other piece doesn't fit quite right. So you're problem solving all the time. And I said, relationships are just like construction, and it's sort of the energy. If you can accept that, like that's the nature of it, then you're in these waves of, again, that dualistic nature of our consciousness, of being asleep, being awake, being born, dying, nighttime, daytime. You see it inside the relationship too, and it's not like you're moving from crisis to crisis. It's more just like you're riding those waves like a surfer. And you can bring more love to them and be like, oh, everything's temporary. Everything's moving. These feelings that I have, the good ones and the bad ones, they change. And the more you can learn how to kind of communicate where you're at in a moment, and really because people can't read your mind, and really communicate what your needs are and communicate that validation to one another. So you're really hearing one another, and that validation of love and expressing what your needs are and meeting someone else's needs, ideally, is the way that you can grow. And I think it's just, there's a lot to be said. It's really hard to say because there's no one size fits all for like how this stuff works for everybody. I just know where I'm at right now, what is needed and what's being asked of me. So I really can't say if that works or what's needed for other people. I just know for me right now, it's about being a better man and standing up for what I know my own truth is, and how I can serve others through that, and finding that, just learning how to love in the moment, and just dude, I don't even know. I don't know. Nobody's the answer. If someone has the answer about relationships, have them tell us, and then you shouldn't believe them anyway because nobody knows. Relationships, they're good. I love them. I think it's better to be in them than not, because like I said, you can run, but you can't hide. It's all love. It's all love. Just a couple more questions, and then I'm getting tired of talking to myself. And if anyone's still listening, I'm going to play some music at the end of this. It's going to be a longer piece. It's something called, what am I going to call it? Oh yeah, Live at the Warehouse in Amsterdam. And I'll give you a little story about what that is when we get to it in a few minutes here. But someone says here, do you have influential books you always recommend to others? Yeah, I got a couple that are important to me. One of them I just rebought because I wanted to remind myself about the beginning of it, and that was Ken Carey's Return of the Bird Tribes. It's just something I find very inspirational. He's just a lovely guy. That's something I read a long time ago. Another one was Journey of Souls, which is a book, I think Michael Newton, the hypnotherapist, who talks about life between lives. And something about that book really resonated with me, with a lot of truth about just sort of why we're doing this whole dance and this whole thing. Another book that was important to me was Charles Eisenstein's Ascent of Humanity, which was, I think, his second book. It's a very big, thick book, but it's just, it's one of those things. It was the right time for me to read that book, and it sort of very loquaciously puts together, since the Stone Age to now, a through line of kind of how we got where we are and how that's totally necessary for us to get where we're going. Calling that the Age of Reunion, which introduced me to Charles and his work, and we became friends. And that was just a very seminal book for me. Let me think. Other ones that were super, super important to me. I know plenty that I enjoy, but I'm trying to think more in the like. They were sort of changing. I'll have to get back to you because I have not made a list in advance about any of this. So, any other questions? Let's see. No. What are you? Oh, all right. What am I most excited about for 2019? Well, that's easy. I'm excited to share with you this Ram Dass record because we've been working on it for most of the last part of 2018. I went out to Maui to Ram Dass to record him in June. So, and I was writing before that music, and since then writing and mixing and adding all sorts of people in, and it's going to continue. There's more for me to write, but we're going to start releasing music January 25th with Chapter 1, and I'll keep writing because we're going to Chapter 4 in August. So I'm really excited just to get that out there and to make this into a conversation and a catalyst for all the themes and subjects that Ram Dass brings up. In addition, the ceremony concerts, I'm going to be playing some of that music, the Ram Dass music, in the ceremony concerts, and that's something that has been developing also in the latter part of 2018 that I'm just really psyched to keep developing. They have so many interesting places I want to take it, and just ideas about what it could become in a collaborative way. It just feels like I'm just scratching the surface there. So there's one in a few days in Los Angeles, New Year's Eve concert at 6:00 p.m. in Silver Lake. There might be a few tickets left. And then the next one we're doing, it's not a ceremony concert, but the next concert and event is January 25th in Boise, Idaho, which is, again, the release date of Chapter 1 of the Ram Dass record. And that same day, January 25th, we're encouraging everyone around the globe who would like to host a listening gathering party of their own to do just that. It could be you and a couple friends, or if you're feeling more inspired and you want to have an event, you open up to the public in your community to come together. And basically what it means is you can do whatever you want, but I'll give you some content and some suggestions. If you want to follow that, you're certainly welcome, or use some of that or none of it. But what we're going to do in Boise, for instance, is we're going to gather as a community. Anybody can come. It's going to be at the First Presbyterian Church here in Boise. And we will listen to Chapter 1. And I'll perform probably a couple songs, but we're also going to have a discussion about those songs. And I have some video content that I'm going to give to the people who are hosting that you can play if you like. I'm going to give you some backstory about recording that material and what one of the songs means. And it's sort of, there's a philosophical meditation element to one of the songs. And Ram Dass and this story he told me about, that it's sort of a discussion that maybe will spur, I would think, discussion with you too. And we'll have a little potluck. And so it's really a way to sort of meet the others, gather the community, get deeper into these themes and ideas, these micro teachings that Ram Dass is going to be presenting through this music that is very timely for our time now. This is what Ram Dass is choosing to talk about now. And he wants all of us to use it as a springboard to get to know one another and to get deeper into ourselves, deeper into the truth, and deeper into love. So January 25th, if you want to host one of those events, all you have to do is reach out, info@eastforest.org or booking@eastforest.org, and we're happy to just send you some more materials and info. So booking@eastforest.org. We'll send you some info if you want to host any kind of listening gathering party for Chapter 1 Ram Dass on January 25th. We are here to empower you. Okay, folks, this is coming to an end. I'm going to wrap this shebang-a-jang up. Happy 2018 into 2019. Happy New Year. I think it's going to be a lot of crazy stuff coming up for our country. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a president, Nancy Pelosi, after Trump and even Pence is removed. Could happen, folks. Could happen. I think that's why Pelosi was like, I am going to be Speaker of the House. I am going to be in that job. I'm third in line. But besides the politics, even Trump himself is the ultimate court jester, the ultimate mirror, the ultimate reflection and symptom of the arising everything, the energies occurring in our planet, on this country. And for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. In that Newtonian way, it always happens that way. So don't despair too much, folks. I know things are pretty crazy, and they're probably going to get crazier, which is all the more reason to tap into your inner resolve and to just love everyone and tell the truth, as Mr. Maharaji likes to tell us. This music you're hearing is live at the Warehouse in Amsterdam. I played it, this is from several years ago. I was in Europe doing a tour, and someone reached out, kind of a fan promoter who did events in Amsterdam. He's like, hey, you want to come do this thing? I was like, sure. And it turned out it was in a warehouse that makes like Soylent, you know, that stuff like coders drink so they can keep coding. It's like a meal. It was a ripoff of Soylent, but it was like Soylent. And I remember this company could not make it fast enough to ship it out. But anyway, and the kid was like 25 who was running this company. So they're throwing on a party in Amsterdam in this warehouse, and there was some DJs from playing like Tropical House from Hamburg before me, and then I was supposed to play, and I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, how is this supposed to work? Like, there's all these kids like high on nitrous balloons listening to this house music, and then I'm supposed to drop into this, and I was pretty terrified. And I remember I walked up, and you know, they're trying to pass the baton of the music, and I started playing, and I remember everyone just stopping, dancing, and staring at me with this dumbfounded look of like, what is this? What's happening? What is this music? And you muscle on because you're like, I gotta play, man. I'm thousands of miles from home. It's late at night, and I'm being paid to do something, so I'm gonna play. And I remember I had like a set in my mind, and it just wasn't working. It's like, it wasn't working for that space. And I remember thinking, I'm just going to jettison what I planned, and I'm just going to improv this out, drop some beats, and just kind of create some vibes in here. And I recall after about 5 minutes, you know, I started bringing some beats in, and they started getting closer and closer and closer and closer. And they weren't really dancing, but they were literally like so close to me. You know, there are kids like standing at the keyboard and just went back from there. So like, we're just like a super intimate, like right up on me. Just like, you know, because I think they were surprised that it was live, that I was like playing the music. And I remember the music kept getting louder and louder and louder. Like the promoter kept turning it up. And it was one of the loudest concerts I've ever played. I kept turning it down. He kept turning it up. And I remember being between these two stacks of giant speakers, and it was like this huge bass bomb, and like I could barely use the microphone because it would just create so much feedback. And that's what this concert pretty much is. It was just sort of like creating some vibes for the kids, and creating some vibes for the kids in Amsterdam. So there it is. More experiences in life, and trying to just to make things work. And it's always interesting to go back in time and listen to work, because it's not really where I feel I'm at now, but I don't have any shame in sharing that with you, because hey, everything's a moment in time, folks. We're all going to look back and think our outfits look silly 20 years from now. So suck it. Hey, you keep walking your walk. May the forest be with you. Don't take any shit, but if you do, in 2019, do it with grace, kids. Do it with grace. for letting me